So Dune Part 2's official trailer is out, and me and my friend Wyatt, we did a reaction to it. If you want to watch that, you can click here if you're interested in reaction videos. However, today, right now, I am going to react to the cinematography of this trailer. Some things that kind of stood out to me, a little bit of storytelling, not just composition style, not just colors and lighting and all of that, but actually even just messaging that this trailer as a whole is really trying to communicate a story, trying to communicate the story to us with symbolism. And I'm sure people that know the story for Dune are really enjoying it because they can see premonitions of it to come through this trailer. So the first thing is actually just simple composition and lighting that I wanted to point out.
It's breathtaking.
This is really cool because they actually filmed in the desert. This is like all practical desert that they're filming in here. And Greg Fraser, the cinematographer, he talked a little bit about how he's worked on some things like Mandalorian and Batman where there's like a lot of volume, there's a lot of impractical stuff, but here on Dune, they try to be as practical as possible in camera footage. And so when you're shooting in just an empty desert, the way you frame it compositionally is very interesting, or it can be really bland. And I really like this because one of the opening shots to the trailer, we get awesome depth here, and we get those classic 3 layers. So we have kind of this out of focus hillside of a dune that's here in the front, and then it kind of contrasts with a shadow that they are also sitting on. That's kind of the middle section of the frame right there, which this whole dune is kind of draped in shadow, which contrasts the lighter colors here from the dune itself. And then you have the background in the sky, which the contrast is a lot less, like you normally see with distant landscapes and whatnot. The contrast is kind of muted because of dust and clouds and distance. And that's also, the sky is just bland and kind of orange and sunny as well. So I thought it creates visually and lighting wise, it creates 3 layers of depth where you have here a dark middle ground, and then kind of a similar to your foreground section here. And it brings focus, obviously, on the third to the characters themselves sitting at the top of this dune. It is kind of a basic and could be kind of boring looking frame, but when you set it up compositionally correctly, it actually makes sense and can be beautiful in its own way. You have this guy who's getting ready to set flame to this pileup of bodies. And I believe this is probably one of the Harkonnen setting flame to the Atreides' bodies that were destroyed or killed, or something around that nature. So I'm guessing this is pretty close to the top of the film. But you notice that the colors, so what this character is wearing, as well as the background, they kind of blend into each other. There's nothing that's like really bringing your attention to who this character is, which is the point of focus, or what he's doing, until he sets off the flame, and it kind of reveals him in this color difference. So he's kind of like disguised amongst this pile, and then lighting wise and with this bright burst of orange color, you get kind of this revelation of this character that kind of shows his outline more. And I think it's pretty cool compositionally, because some people might just say, well, shoot from the side so you can see the flame shooting out and hitting the pile of individuals. But they're like, no, compositionally, we want to try something different. We want to almost reveal this character with this middle ground flame, if you will. I thought that was really cool, and a stylistic choice. I thought that was brilliant.
The end of House Atreides.
The other thing here was when it goes to a close-up of a painting of Leto Atreides. And it symbolizes, obviously, that in the previous film that he was killed and that he's dead. But I almost like it because it's, although they're burning people, they're burning like stuff that was there from the Atreides house, and kind of removing the memory of the Atreides house altogether. It's really cool that they gave us this close-up of this painting, because it almost kind of reminds the audience not only that he's dead because it's a picture, but also that he was kind of burned in some way. He was burned by the Emperor. He was burned by the situation that he was put in. And the heat, literally Dune itself, kind of with the symbolism of the heat kind of destroying the Atreides family in some fashion. It's actually being this cold color, this cold kind of off green color and bluish temperature that we know from when they were on the Atreides home world before they moved to Dune, is contrasted with this Arrakis orange. And I just think compositionally and color wise, it's really cool, and it tells a story and has a lot of interpretation you can inject into this image. This other shot actually kind of caught my eye, and I had to play it through a few times because I was like, what about this is so interesting to me? And it's just typical. It's usually a frame within a frame, you know? There's a bunch of empty space, and it's bringing your attention to the center through this little beam of light that's also being casted on the floor behind this character, Austin Butler, or this character, Fade. But as I was watching through this, I realized, oh, what the story it's telling, visually it's revealing something to you, but it's almost hidden in the trailer a little bit, because it starts opening kind of this chasm right here. And it starts revealing the silhouette of this character, and this beautiful light is being cast on the floor. But if you watch the trailer, what you don't see is he is holding weapons in his hands. But before it shows those weapons in his hands, it cuts away to a close-up of the character. But what I think I enjoyed so much about this is that the shadow reveals that he's holding something that looks like knives, but you can't see it in his hands because they cut away before you see that. So his shadow is telling just as much of a story as he is standing in this door that's opening. And I just thought visually it's cool. It's cool to make something, the point of focus, really small in the frame and just make the rest of the frame obsolete. I think that's really cool and creative when used correctly. We saw a lot of that in the Batman that Greg Fraser also was the cinematographer for. This was also an interesting bit because it's not this frame specifically, but I'm contrasting it with the gladiator scene with Fade, Austin Butler's character, and Timothée Chalamet's character, Paul Atreides. So there's this moment in the trailer before he rides the sandworm that they are fighting, like Paul Atreides here is fighting another character in this really saturated, really orange environment, and it's almost way more saturated than we've seen in the first movie and we see in the rest of this trailer, right? This is the most saturated. It's probably to represent like dusk on Arrakis, and we don't really know details yet, but it's definitely the sun is either close or coming down on the earth, but it's really saturated. The colors are really being pushed here, and it actually is contrasted with Fade fighting another character in an arena, but it's lost all color. Everything's black and white. There's no color to this image at all. And I think it's actually really cool because they're kind of contrasting, and kind of what I said at the beginning of the video. People who know the story, who know this character Fade, is kind of a mirror, kind of the ultimate antagonist versus Paul Atreides. Does that make sense? I haven't read the book, so I don't even know the details of Fade, but I know a lot of people who enjoy the story, and from what I know about this character is that he's a real rival to Paul Atreides himself, and so I think this trailer is kind of communicating the mirroring or the contrasting side of these two characters kind of back to back with this high saturation to no saturation, and they're both fighting in those scenes. So I think that's just a cool detail. The other thing is just, I wanted to point out this epic focus pull, right? We don't actually get to see the pull of the focus, but we see Paul Atreides walking to the edge of this giant cliff here, looking down on all of the Fremen. And it's super cool because he's in focus, and all the Fremen, you know those are the Fremen. You know that's just a giant group of people that are looking to him. And then you get a cutaway, and then it comes back to it, and you get that focus pull where he's lifting his knife, and it reveals all and more clear everybody who's standing there cheering for him. And it's just honestly one of the most badass focus pulls I've ever seen because of just the nature of this environment, just the nature of one man versus 50,000 men and women. And it's super cool, and it looks awesome, and it's a great way to kind of end the trailer.
May thy knife chip
and then this other shot, this is the last one I want to point out to everybody, is this really beautiful image, as I said before, of Feyd and Paul kind of being a mirror and a contrast, a kind of parallel in the story. And so I liked in this image how they showed us in the trailer that this image is set up and designed to literally be a parallel of each other. You have these leading lines that are coming straight down onto Paul and coming, in and down onto Paul, and the same mirroring for Feyd in and down to kind of bring your attention to where these characters are standing. And then obviously it's literally, if you split the image in half, with the exception of the positioning of the characters and how they're standing, it's almost identical. You have a group of people here, you have a group of people here, you have kind of this cross window that they're kind of standing next to. And then you have these floor lines that just are completely consistent all the way through. The lighting is exactly the same. I mean, everything is just mirroring each other with the exception of the personality of these two characters, Paul and Feyd. And so I think this is just a really good composition shot for what they're communicating for these characters and how they view each other and how they stand against each other. So that stood out to me. That's everything. There's obviously a lot of cool moments when Paul rides the sandworm, and I talk a little bit about why I think they showed us all of that in the reaction that I teased at the beginning. So if you want to watch that, if you haven't already, go check it out. It's a lot of fun, us reacting to the trailer and talking about it afterwards. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. Tell me what stood out to you cinematically, compositionally, lighting, or even just message. What is some messages you pulled out of this trailer that you think is foreshadowing the film to come? Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.